In the movement of life, there is a paradox few understand. The more we chase something, the more it runs away from us. The energy of pursuit creates distance, not closeness. It carries with it an undertone of restlessness, of wanting, of needing. And that vibration is not one that invites love to stay. It pushes it further into the shadows. Stillness, however, holds a different power. It is the energy of calm confidence, of rootedness. When a woman learns to sit within her own stillness, she becomes magnetic. Not because she tries to be, but because everything about her begins to communicate peace, presence, and trust in her own value. When you chase, your energy is facing outward. It is reaching. It says, I do not yet have. But when you rest in stillness, your energy turns inward. It says, I am already whole. And this shift, though invisible to the eye, is deeply felt by anyone who comes near you. A man, whether conscious of it or not, feels this frequency immediately. He senses whether your heart is anchored or anxious, whether your energy seeks to grasp or to allow. The heart cannot open in the presence of grasping. It opens in the presence of stillness. In stillness, you are no longer fighting time or outcomes. You are no longer trying to predict what will happen or forcing what must unfold. You begin to live in rhythm with something deeper than desire. You start to embody trust. This trust is not nava. It is not blind hope. It is the quiet knowing that what is meant for you cannot pass you by. It is understanding that love cannot be caught, only received. And to receive it, you must stop moving, stop chasing, stop trying to control how it comes to you. The more still you become, the more you begin to feel what your chasing had been trying to avoid. The silence, the uncertainty, the emptiness. Many people cannot stand this silence because it mirrors their inner restlessness. But the truth is, stillness is not empty. It is full of wisdom, full of presence, full of power. When you sit long enough within it, you start to sense the quiet pulse of your own being. You begin to hear the voice beneath the noise, the voice that says, you are enough. You always have been. And when that voice becomes louder than the fear of loss, you no longer chase. You simply become. To attract from stillness is to embody the essence of water. Water does not chase the shore. It flows, it waits, it reflects, it moves with patience and yet reaches everything. When a man meets a woman who carries that energy, he feels something sacred. He feels her calm not as indifference, but as depth. He feels her absence of chase not as disinterest, but as self-respect. And in that space, his own energy shifts. He begins to approach, not because she demands it, but because her energy gives him the space to choose. This is the hidden art of attraction. It is not found in action, but in alignment. When your inner world is calm, your outer world begins to organize itself around that calm. Your stillness speaks louder than your words. It tells him, I do not need to run after what already belongs to peace. And that message is irresistible, because every man, no matter how strong or distant, is searching for peace in a world that constantly demands motion. When he meets someone who does not chase him, he begins to sense that she carries something he has been missing: rest. Stillness is not silence born from fear. It is silence born from fullness. It is not withholding or playing games. It is the natural state of someone who no longer seeks validation outside themselves. From this place, everything becomes easier. Communication becomes clearer, emotions settle, intuition awakens. You start to see what chasing had blinded you to. That true love is not built on effort, but on presence. When you are still, you begin to perceive subtleties. You notice what energy enters a space, what words carry truth, what gestures are genuine. You no longer react, you respond. You are not pulled into every storm that arises because your roots are deep. This depth gives you the power to influence without trying. You begin to move the world around you not through force but through frequency. Stillness is a mirror. It reflects everything that comes near it. When a man stands before it, he begins to see himself more clearly. He feels his own noise, his own desires, his own fears. Some will run from that reflection, others will stay. The ones who stay are the ones ready to meet you in depth because they have recognized the peace they feel in your presence as something rare. That peace is not a tactic. It cannot be faked. It arises only when you have learned to sit with yourself long enough to no longer seek your worth in another. Every moment you resist the urge to chase, you strengthen your inner foundation. Every time you return to stillness instead of anxiety, you reclaim your power. The chase may promise immediate relief, but it empties you. Stillness feels like surrender, but it fills you. It brings you back into rhythm with yourself, and from there, life begins to flow toward you. Love begins to find its way without effort. Because you have stopped trying to make it happen, you have allowed it to happen. There is an invisible law that governs energy. What you run after runs away, and what you allow moves toward you. The reason is simple. Chasing is rooted in fear, stillness in trust. Fear repels, trust attracts. And trust cannot be spoken, it must be lived. It must be felt in the way you breathe, in the way you carry silence, in the way you meet uncertainty with calm eyes. To awaken a man's deepest feelings, you must not reach for him. You must return to yourself. The energy of stillness reminds him of something ancient, something forgotten. It reminds him that love does not live in the noise of pursuit, but in the quiet rhythm of two souls who have found peace within themselves. When you embody that peace, you become the place his heart can rest. There is a language that exists beyond the boundaries of sound, a communication that flows beneath speech, beneath expression, beneath all the things we say to each other. It is the language of energy. It cannot be rehearsed, manipulated, or disguised for long. It reveals the truth that the mouth cannot hide. Every glance, every pause, every vibration of emotion carries a message that travels far deeper than any carefully chosen sentence ever could. Words may be crafted, but energy is lived. It is the truest reflection of what we feel, believe, and embody in this moment. When two people meet, it is not the words that first speak. It is the energy between them. Before a man even understands what you are saying, he feels what you are carrying. Your energy tells him whether you are at peace or in conflict, whether you are confident or insecure, whether your love is free or tied to fear. And what he feels from you will determine what he offers in return. Many people try to convince another of their worth through talk, explanation, or reasoning, but no amount of words can override the frequency of your being. Energy cannot lie. When your energy is scattered, your words lose their strength. You may speak of calmness, yet your tone betrays tension. You may speak of trust, yet your body vibrates with anxiety. You may say you are detached, yet your eyes reveal expectation. The body speaks louder than the voice, and energy speaks louder than the body. This is why stillness and alignment matter more than persuasion. When you are rooted in inner peace, you do not need to convince anyone of anything. Your energy communicates all that needs to be known. In human connection, energy always precedes form. It shapes the atmosphere of the relationship before logic arrives. A man will often find himself drawn to or distant from a woman without fully understanding why. The explanation is energetic. When your energy is open, unguarded, authentic, it creates a sense of safety. He feels invited to step closer. But when your energy carries resistance, control, demand, or desperation, he feels the unseen pressure to withdraw. He is not responding to your words. He is responding to what those words are carrying. To awaken someone's deeper feelings, you must first refine the vibration you bring into the space. The energy of peace attracts presence. The energy of calmness draws curiosity. The energy of authenticity dissolves defense. You cannot fake these qualities. They are cultivated through the inner work of awareness. You must sit with your own energy until you know its texture, until you can feel when it is open and when it is closed. Because every emotional reaction you have changes your frequency. Every thought of doubt, comparison, or fear adds noise to your signal. When you begin to quiet that noise, your energy becomes coherent. It moves in harmony rather than conflict. And from that coherence arises a powerful presence, one that speaks without speaking. You begin to notice that people respond differently to you. They listen more, they open more, they feel more. Not because your words have changed, but because your energy has softened. The space around you becomes inviting, peaceful, magnetic. In moments of emotional tension, when communication seems impossible, remember that your energy is the first message being received. If you argue while your heart is closed, your words become walls. But if you speak from calm awareness, even silence becomes understanding. A man feels this difference deeply. He may not know how to describe it, but he knows when your energy feels like home and when it feels like resistance. He knows when your presence soothes and when it demands. To master energy is to master connection. It is not about controlling outcomes or changing another person. It is about mastering yourself. The energy you bring into a room changes the room. When you walk in anxious, the air tightens. When you walk in calm, it expands. Every thought is a vibration, every emotion a frequency. These waves move outward from you, influencing everything they touch. This is not mystical. It is observable. You have felt it before when someone enters a space carrying joy or carrying heaviness. Before a word is spoken, you already know what they feel. This is the language of energy in motion. Learning to communicate through energy means becoming aware of what you radiate. It means asking yourself not what you are saying, but what your energy is saying for you. Is your energy communicating fear of loss or trust in life? Is it saying, I need you, or I see you? Is it broadcasting confusion or presence? Awareness transforms communication because when you become conscious of your energetic state, you can shift it. You can pause before reacting, breathe before speaking, ground yourself before responding. And this small shift in energy changes everything that follows. A man will not remember every word you said to him, but he will never forget how your energy made him feel. The warmth in your tone, the patience in your silence, the steadiness in your presence, these are the things that move his heart, because they transmit something words cannot: safety, acceptance, truth. Energy bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the nervous system. It tells him, without speaking, you can relax here. And that feeling is the root of deep connection. To speak through energy is to embody integrity between thought, word, and action. It is to live in such alignment that your presence becomes your language. When you say, I'm fine, but carry unresolved tension, the energy of that tension is louder than your statement. When you say, I love you, but harbor resentment, that love feels distorted. But when your words match your vibration, truth arises. Truth felt in energy is stronger than truth spoken in words. It resonates, it lingers, it heals. To communicate through energy is not about manipulation or performance. It is about authenticity. It is about letting your inner state match your outer expression. The more you live in that harmony, the less you need to explain yourself. The world responds to your vibration long before it hears your voice. Every encounter becomes a reflection of what you are radiating within. If you wish for peace, become peace. If you wish for love, become love. If you wish to be understood, embody clarity. Energy speaks, and the world listens to its language more faithfully than to anything the tongue can say. In the dance of connection, there is a subtle truth that is often overlooked. No one can fully meet you if you are not fully yourself. Authenticity is not a strategy. It is the foundation of all meaningful relationships. It is the quiet courage to show yourself as you are, without masks, without pretense, without the need to be liked or approved. When a woman embodies authenticity, she becomes a bridge, an invitation for a man to step into the fullness of his own depth. It is through this presence that genuine connection arises, because depth recognizes depth and pretension repels it. Most people move through life performing roles. They adjust, they adapt, they present versions of themselves designed to fit expectations. But these versions are never fully alive. They are surface level projections, a collection of what they believe will attract or please. And while such projections may temporarily hold attention, they cannot sustain the kind of connection that nourishes the heart. A man senses the difference. Deep down, he can feel whether he is in the presence of truth or performance. Authenticity, in contrast, is magnetic because it communicates a fundamental honesty. Here is someone who is real, someone who exists fully in her own skin, someone who is not trying to manipulate the world to conform to her desires. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. To be authentic, you must first know yourself, your rhythms, your boundaries, your longings, your fears. You must understand the patterns of your heart, the quiet whispers of your mind, the subtle impulses of your body. When you become acquainted with your inner landscape, you no longer feel the need to embellish or perform. You understand what is yours and what is not. You recognize the difference between what arises from your true self and what arises from conditioning, expectation, or fear. This clarity allows you to respond to life from a place of truth, not from a place of reaction or compulsion. When a woman is authentic, she communicates without trying to control the outcome. She does not shape herself to fit his desires or try to predict his reactions. She moves with honesty, speaking and acting in ways that reflect her true experience. And in this presence, a man feels a freedom that is rarely offered. He feels safe to step into his own truth because there is no pressure to perform, to impress, or to hide. Authenticity does not demand, it allows. It does not push, it invites. It opens the space for both people to inhabit their full selves without fear. Authenticity also communicates integrity. When your words, actions, and energy are aligned, there is no dissonance for him to navigate. He senses a coherence that resonates with his own inner knowing. A man may not consciously articulate why he is drawn to a woman, but the energy of authenticity speaks directly to his nervous system, bypassing logic and expectation. He feels her as a presence that is whole, grounded, and real. And when a man experiences this presence, it awakens his own depth. He begins to sense that he too can reveal what lies beneath the surface without fear of judgment or rejection. Many attempts to connect with a man fail not because of lack of attraction, but because of the absence of authenticity. When a woman adjusts herself to fit what she believes he wants, she unknowingly creates a barrier. His depth cannot meet a fakehead. He may admire the performance, he may respond to the charm, but he cannot touch the essence that lies beyond. Authenticity removes that barrier. It says, "Here I am as I am, fully and without reservation." And in response, a man is invited to meet her there, to step past his own defenses, and to encounter himself in a way that is profound and unguarded. Authenticity is also rooted in vulnerability. It is the willingness to show what is often hidden imperfections, doubts, fears, and contradictions. It is the courage to let another witness your shadow as well as your light. And this vulnerability is not weakness. It is a signal of strength, of presence, of emotional maturity. A man senses this courage and is drawn to it because it mirrors what he has long sought within himself, the permission to be fully human. When a woman embodies authenticity, she does not demand that he change or fix himself. She simply allows him to meet her in truth, which in turn encourages him to step into his own depth with honesty and integrity. In authentic connection, there is no need for games, manipulation, or control. There is no attempt to predict or strategize. There is only presence, awareness, and the willingness to exist as you are. And this is what creates the bridge. The bridge is not a bridge of persuasion or effort. It is a bridge of alignment. It is built from the energy of self-possession, from the clarity of knowing who you are, from the commitment to live in accordance with that truth. And as a man stands on this bridge, he finds a space where he can feel, where he can reflect, where he can awaken to the parts of himself that have long been dormant. Authenticity also cultivates patience, because when you are real, you do not need immediate validation. You do not need his response to prove your worth. You can simply exist, holding your own truth. This patience allows connection to unfold naturally. A man feels this patience as an absence of pressure. He experiences the freedom to approach at his own pace, to explore his feelings without coercion, and to honor his own timing. In this space, his deepest emotions begin to surface because he is not being forced or manipulated. He is being invited by presence, by honesty, and by the quiet strength of authenticity. Ultimately, authenticity is the path through which true intimacy is possible. It is the bridge that connects one depth to another. It is the quiet declaration that you are whole in yourself, and that in your wholeness, you offer a space for another to be whole as well. When a woman lives authentically, she no longer fears absence, she no longer chases, she no longer pleads for recognition or love. She simply exists, and in that existence, a man is awakened to the dimensions of feeling he may have hidden from the world, the dimensions of himself that have longed for recognition and reflection. Authenticity is not a technique, it is a way of being. It is the alignment of thought, emotion, and action. It is the courage to face yourself fully, and in doing so, to offer a presence that is unshakable, magnetic, and alive. And when a man encounters that, when he meets a woman who carries herself without mask or artifice, he feels a call to depth he cannot ignore. He feels the invitation to move beyond the superficial, to inhabit his own center, to awaken the parts of himself that have been waiting in silence. In matters of the heart, there is a natural rhythm that many overlook, the rhythm of space, of absence, of distance. So often we believe that closeness, constant communication, and the pressure to maintain presence are the keys to connection. Yet the deepest emotional awakenings often happen in the quiet of absence, when a man is allowed the space to feel without influence, without persuasion, without chasing. Distance is not rejection, it is a subtle teacher. It is the element that allows the unseen forces of desire, longing, and reflection to grow. When you learn to let distance do its work, you step into a wisdom that surpasses any strategy or manipulation. Distance works because it invites reflection. When a man is constantly present, constantly influenced by your energy, he rarely has the opportunity to pause and feel. In the space of absence, he begins to notice what he misses. He begins to sense the subtleties of your presence, the warmth of your energy, the calm in your voice, the depth of your being. Absence sharpens perception. It creates contrast. In the quiet of distance, he cannot take you for granted because the gap allows him to feel the gravity of what exists when you are not there. This is the paradox. The less you press, the more he begins to understand the value of your presence. Many people fear distance because they confuse it with abandonment. They believe that if they step back, the connection will fade, the affection will diminish, the opportunity will be lost. But the truth is, connection that relies on proximity alone is superficial. It is a connection that clings, that depends on constant validation and reassurance. Deep feeling, however, grows in freedom. It grows in space. When a man is allowed room, he must meet his own emotions. He must reckon with what your presence meant to him. He must confront the longing that only absence can reveal. In this way, distance is a mirror. It reflects the true weight of attachment and the reality of desire. Distance also cultivates patience. When you release the need to be constantly available, when you stop trying to orchestrate his thoughts or feelings, you enter a state of trust. Trust that what is meant to find you will find its way. Trust that a man who feels the depth of your being will be drawn naturally, without coercion, without chasing. This trust is not passive. It is an active alignment with the natural flow of life, a surrender to timing that is greater than your immediate impulses. When you embody this patience, your energy becomes magnetic. It communicates confidence, self-possession, and a sense of ease that cannot be manufactured through pursuit. The work of distance is subtle but profound. It creates longing without pressure, reflection without accusation, awareness without instruction. A man begins to feel the spaces you occupy in his mind, the moments that echo with your energy, the small details that he may have overlooked in the comfort of constant presence. These impressions grow in intensity because they are not forced, they are allowed to emerge naturally. This is why so many attempts to force attention fail. The heart does not respond to control, it responds to freedom. Distance provides freedom. Distance also invites self-discovery. In your absence, a man is faced with his own inner world. He must confront his feelings, his desires, his fears, and his intentions. This internal reflection is often uncomfortable because it forces honesty. It forces him to ask questions he might otherwise ignore. What do I truly feel? How important is this connection? What is my own readiness to love deeply? When these questions arise in the silence created by distance, his emotional depth is awakened. He begins to recognize the value of presence that is not taken for granted, of attention that is not demanded, of love that is not coerced. There is also a clarity that distance brings. When someone is too close, emotions can become entangled with habit, routine, or expectation. The line between genuine feeling and dependency can blur. But when there is space, when a man must confront the absence of what he once took for granted, clarity emerges. He begins to see the qualities that he may have overlooked, the depth of connection that was always there, and the resonance that your presence carries. Distance sharpens awareness and compels the heart to recognize what it truly desires. Letting distance do its work requires restraint and discernment. It requires the courage to step back even when your impulses urge you to step forward. It is a practice of self-possession, of knowing your own worth without relying on his immediate validation. It is also an exercise in observation, watching without interference, sensing without reaction, allowing the natural rhythm of attraction and reflection to unfold. In this way, distance is not emptiness, it is a container. It holds the energy of connection in a way that nurtures depth rather than disperses it. Distance also fosters respect. When a man feels that he is not being pressured, manipulated, or pursued, he is more likely to approach from authenticity rather than obligation. He is free to meet on his own terms, to align his feelings with his own readiness, and to choose engagement from a place of sincerity rather than compulsion. The respect he develops for your boundaries, your self-possession, and your inner life deepens the emotional bond far more than any attempt to force closeness could achieve. In letting distance do its work, you cultivate a rhythm that mirrors the natural ebb and flow of life. Relationships are not linear, they are waves. The push and pull, the approach and retreat. The periods of closeness and space, all of these dynamics are part of a deeper intelligence that cannot be controlled. By honoring distance, you honor this intelligence. You create an environment where desire, reflection, longing, and authenticity can coexist. You allow love to breathe, to stretch, to find its own path without interference. And in doing so, you awaken emotions that are real, profound, and lasting. In the realm of human connection, there is a subtle and often misunderstood form of strength, the power of receptivity. Many equate being receptive with passivity, with weakness, with surrender. But this could not be further from the truth. Receptivity is not about allowing life or a relationship to happen to you without choice or awareness. It is about creating a state of inner openness that allows energy, emotion, and connection to flow freely without obstruction. It is a conscious, active stance of presence that transforms interaction from force to resonance, from effort to magnetism. When a woman embraces receptivity, she does not lose herself, she awakens her own power. To be receptive, one must first cultivate stillness. The mind is often cluttered with agendas, fears, and anticipations. These mental movements block the natural flow of energy between people. Receptivity arises when you are able to quiet this mental noise and return to your own center. In this state, you are not reacting to every impulse, nor are you attempting to control the narrative. Instead, you become a clear channel, allowing the other's energy to be felt, understood, and mirrored. This openness does not diminish you. It strengthens the field of connection. It is a signal of confidence and self-possession that speaks louder than any words. Receptivity is the fertile ground from which influence arises naturally. When you stop forcing outcomes, when you stop trying to bend circumstances to your will, you create a space where the other person can show up authentically. A man, in particular, responds to a woman who is receptive because she reflects a sense of balance and groundedness. Her openness communicates safety, acceptance, and curiosity without judgment. He feels drawn not because he is being manipulated, but because he senses that his presence is welcomed without demand, his emotions are acknowledged, and his truth can exist alongside hers. This is the paradox. By yielding control and embracing receptivity, you actually expand your influence in ways that chasing or persuasion could never achieve. Being receptive is not passive observation, it is active engagement on a different plane. It requires acute awareness of subtle energies, body language, tone, and emotional undercurrents. It is the practice of listening without interruption, observing without immediate response, and holding space without attempting to fill it with your own agenda. A receptive woman cultivates attunement with both herself and the other. She notices shifts in energy, pauses in speech, and the hidden messages that often lie beneath words. Her power lies in her ability to respond with presence rather than reaction, with depth rather than impulsivity. In relationships, receptivity fosters intimacy. It allows for a deeper exchange because it encourages vulnerability. When a woman meets a man with openness, without pretense or judgment, he feels safe to reveal himself more fully. Receptivity does not coerce or demand, it invites. It is a subtle pull that awakens his own responsiveness. He begins to show up not because of obligation, but because the environment she creates allows him to connect with his own feelings, to explore his emotions, and to act from authenticity. The energy of receptivity acts as a mirror, reflecting his depth back to him and amplifying the connection between them. The misconception that receptivity is weakness arises from a culture that glorifies constant action and control. We are taught to act, to pursue, to prove our value through effort and achievement. Yet emotional depth, genuine connection, and lasting attraction are rarely born from constant doing. They are cultivated through being. Being receptive is an act of mastery because it requires discipline, awareness, and trust in life's natural flow. It demands courage to stand in openness without the compulsion to manipulate or predict outcomes. It is a demonstration of inner security, the quiet confidence that what is meant to align with you will do so naturally, and that your worth is not dependent on the other's immediate response. Receptivity also creates clarity. When you are open to what is, without imposing your expectations or fears onto the other person, you begin to see more clearly. You notice the truth of feelings, intentions, and alignment without distortion. You recognize patterns and energies that would otherwise be hidden by the noise of chasing, demanding, or over-analyzing. Receptivity allows you to engage from insight rather than reaction, from awareness rather than compulsion. It is a strategic stillness that fosters understanding and discernment while maintaining compassion and openness. Furthermore, receptivity is deeply transformative for the woman herself. It nurtures patience, resilience, and emotional intelligence. She learns to trust herself and the natural flow of human interaction. She develops the ability to hold her own energy steady regardless of external turbulence, and to respond rather than react. This stability becomes a magnet, drawing others into alignment with her frequency. A man feels this presence as grounding. It awakens in him a desire to meet her with equal depth, care, and intentionality. Receptivity is the art of allowing life to meet you, of creating a vessel capable of holding what arises without fear, resistance, or judgment. It is not a passive stance. It is the highest form of engagement because it requires vigilance, self-awareness, and integrity. It communicates strength without force, influence without control, and love without grasping. A woman who embodies receptivity demonstrates the paradoxical power of yielding. By opening herself fully, she becomes the anchor in the space between hearts, the source from which connection flows naturally, the presence that awakens the deepest feelings in another without ever needing to chase them. In connection is not built on words alone, nor on gestures, nor on the outward appearances of effort. True connection is born from resonance, the invisible, subtle alignment of emotional frequencies between two people. Emotional resonance is the quiet harmony that allows hearts to recognize each other, even when the mind struggles to articulate the experience. It is a force deeper than attraction, stronger than persuasion, and far more enduring than any surface-level engagement. When a woman learns to cultivate emotional resonance, she creates a bridge into a man's inner world, awakening feelings that cannot be forced, demanded, or manufactured. At the heart of emotional resonance lies awareness, awareness of one's own inner state. A woman who is attuned to her own emotions can sense the fluctuations of energy within her, recognizing what is calm and what is chaotic, what is authentic and what is reactive. This awareness allows her to regulate her energy in a way that creates coherence and stability. It is this stability that others feel as magnetic, soothing, and inviting. When a man encounters this presence, he is drawn not by words or actions alone, but by the subtle frequency of emotional alignment, a resonance that bypasses logic and speaks directly to his heart. Resonance is the mirror through which connection is reflected. When a woman embodies her truth, her emotions flow freely and without distortion. She does not mask what she feels to manipulate outcomes, nor does she amplify emotions to force attention. Instead, she inhabits the authenticity of her emotional landscape, allowing the full spectrum of experience, joy, calm, curiosity, depth, even vulnerability, to arise and settle naturally. In doing so, she creates a reflective space in which a man's own feelings can awaken. He senses the invitation to meet her not through coercion, but through the subtle pull of shared frequency. Emotional resonance is experienced in moments of presence. It emerges when a woman is fully engaged with herself and attuned to the subtle currents of the interaction. It is found in the pause between words, in the tone of voice, in the calm steadiness of her gaze. These are not trivial details, they are the conduits through which energy flows. A man feels these vibrations immediately, often before he can name them. He may not consciously understand why he is drawn, why he feels safe, or why he experiences a desire to reveal more of himself, but he recognizes the authenticity of the resonance. It communicates in a language beyond logic that it is safe to inhabit his own emotional truth. Many people confuse connection with effort. They believe that constant attention, relentless pursuit, or dramatic gestures are what awaken feelings. Yet these actions often create noise rather than resonance. Emotional resonance requires the opposite. It thrives in the presence of clarity, calm, and alignment. It is cultivated through inner work, the practice of observing one's emotions without judgment, allowing feelings to flow without control, and returning to presence when the mind or heart becomes turbulent. This internal discipline creates a frequency that others unconsciously respond to, awakening emotions that are dormant or suppressed. Resonance also relies on emotional receptivity. To resonate with another, one must be open to feeling without interference. This openness is not passive. It is an active choice to receive energy without resistance, to allow the subtleties of a man's emotional expression to enter the shared space. When a woman practices this form of receptivity, she signals to a man that his inner life is welcome, that his emotions are safe to surface, and that he can explore his own depth without fear of judgment or dismissal. In this environment, feelings expand naturally, attraction deepens, and intimacy becomes inevitable. The power of resonance is magnified by consistency. When a woman maintains alignment with her emotional center over time, it creates a stable field in which trust and desire can grow. The frequency she radiates does not fluctuate with every circumstance. It is grounded in self, possession awareness, and inner calm. A man experiences this stability as a form of magnetism. He is drawn not to perform or impress, but to meet her in the shared rhythm of energy, to engage with the depth of feeling that her presence evokes. Resonance becomes the language through which hearts converse, bypassing the limitations of words, rational thought, or superficial gestures. Emotional resonance awakens the parts of a man that are often hidden. It bypasses defense mechanisms, social conditioning, and habitual masks, reaching directly to the core of his emotional being. He begins to sense feelings he may have ignored or suppressed, longings he may have dismissed, and truths he may have avoided. This awakening is not manipulative, it arises naturally from the alignment of energies. When two people resonate emotionally, the connection is no longer contingent on effort, fear, or expectation. It arises spontaneously, as a reflection of authentic presence meeting authentic presence. Furthermore, resonance amplifies vulnerability and courage. When a man encounters a woman whose energy is coherent and authentic, he feels safe to explore his own vulnerability. He begins to express feelings he may have thought were unworthy, to take emotional risks, and to meet her depth with his own. This mutual resonance creates a feedback loop. Her energy invites him to open, and his opening strengthens the field of connection, which in turn invites her to deepen her own emotional expression. The cycle generates intimacy, trust, and profound understanding that cannot exist in the absence of alignment. Ultimately, emotional resonance is the key to awakening deep connection because it operates beyond logic, persuasion, or manipulation. It is not found in chasing, striving, or convincing. It is cultivated through presence, authenticity, and alignment. It is the quiet, potent energy that signals to a man that he can meet a woman without performance, without facade, without fear. It is a language he feels in the nervous system, in the chest, in the subtle currents of attention and attunement. It calls him to show up fully, to step into his own emotional depth, and to recognize the potential for a bond that is both magnetic and enduring. Resonance cannot be forced, but it can be nurtured. It arises when a woman commits to her own inner life, aligns with her truth, and allows the natural flow of energy to carry the interaction. She does not seek to provoke a response, she simply inhabits her frequency fully. And in this inhabitation, a man feels called to meet her, not because of obligation, desire for validation, or external pressure, but because the resonance she embodies awakens something within him that has long been waiting, something essential, something that recognizes itself in the depth of her presence